Welcome to Breaking News Today with WDW News Today. I'm Tom Corliss. Here now is our breaking news update for February 28th, 2019, and it's a doozy. With the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you couldn't tell it was going to be Star Wars related. With the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland Park edging ever closer, Disney has gone on an all-out media blitz across several major news outlets, including Entertainment Weekly, TechCrunch, and many, many more over the last couple of hours. We have done our best to scour every story and bring you every last thing of value we have learned this week about Batuu, the Black Spire Outpost, and the most anticipated theme park edition of all time. There is a lot to cover. Let's jump on in. Let's talk about Batuu, the planet and the place first. Batuu used to be a quiet nowhere. Now it's on the front line of conflict. The planet's way station for interplanetary travelers, Black Spire Outpost is like an old Route 66 town in our world, bypassed by modern light-speed transit routes. It literally sits on the galaxy's edge, which gives this 14-acre Disneyland and Walt Disney World experience its name. If that sounds like the title of a Star Wars movie, that's intentional. Your visit is meant to feel like part of the galactic timeline, set somewhere after the events of The Last Jedi and shortly before December's Episode 9. That meant creating a story and history around Black Spire Outpost with room to adapt for future Star Wars storytelling. Quote, "We want to give the impression that this planet has always been around, and that we're coming into it as travelers for the first time onto Batuu," says Margaret Kerrison, manager story editor with Walt Disney Imagineering. This isn't a sleepy backwater anymore. The First Order recently sent a garrison here in story, seeking something. Disney won't say what just yet. But we know a little about the stormtroopers who are doing the hunting. Quote, "The 709th, the Red Fury, 709th, says Scott Trowbridge, the Imagineering creative executive in charge of Galaxy's Edge. There are some stories to be told about those folks and why they're here and what they came looking for or who they came looking for." Lucasfilm Story Group member Pablo Hidalgo says fans should expect to see some of those stories turn up in Star Wars publishing in the near future, but it's already referenced in a few books and one movie available now. Each park worker or cast member in Disney parlance will also be playing a character as they go about their jobs. They may be serving up sandwiches at the Ronto Roaster, guiding you onto rides, or cleaning up the grounds, but they're also being trained in improvisation and role play. They're also being encouraged to talk about politics, although not Earth politics, thankfully. Every worker will have an opinion of what's recently taken place here, which is the First Order arriving a couple weeks ago. There's a lot of gossiping, there's a lot of whispers and rumors about what's going on. There might be cast members who are Resistance sympathizers helping them out. There might be some cast members who are First Order loyalists who are like, finally, Order. My gosh, someone's going to do something about this place, right? Just months from opening at Disneyland this summer and Walt Disney World this fall, Galaxy's Edge is still a work in progress. Most of the exterior buildings and spires have been constructed in Anaheim, but the interiors and ride mechanics are still being finished. The full-sized Millennium Falcon, part of Smuggler's Run, is parked in the center of town, and there are thriving shops surrounding it like Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities. We'll talk more about all those stores a little later. We got a lot to get through, people. You can venture beyond Black Spire's gates and you'll find a place in the woods where the good guys have set up a hidden headquarters. Out there you'll find a Blue Squadron X-Wing parked on a low platform alongside an A-Wing fighter. This area is meant to be part of Batuu's tranquil Surabat River Valley, where early planetary beings set up their own community. And as guests explore Black Spire Outpost inside of Galaxy's Edge, guests will be able to use the Play Disney Parks app on their devices to learn more about the events unfolding around them and become part of the stories themselves. Since the First Order arrived at Black Spire Outpost, they've started uploading a surveillance system to door control panels to monitor what's going on in the outpost, says Anisha Deshmain, an assistant producer with Imagineering who helped develop the interactive elements. Obviously, the Resistance may not want their actions to be tracked. They'd like to fly under the radar, so they're trying to fight back. There are scores of these surveillance boxes embedded in the walls around town, and you can use the Play Disney Parks app to hack into them by solving a simple puzzle. Then you can choose to either deactivate them to help the Resistance or reactivate them to help the First Order. As time goes on, the game runs out and a winner is declared. The Play Disney Parks app will read markers on containers and buildings that reveal a little more about what's inside as well. On the Rise of the Resistance and Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run rides, it'll pass the time in line by filling you in on all the facts about the impending missions. Some of the labels will be encrypted, so users will have to solve a simple puzzle as a description key that will allow them to reveal the contents. The app will also make it easier to be a stranger in a strange land. As you walk through, there are amazing languages written onto the walls and carved into the stone, says Imagineering concept designer Casey Ging. You'll hear characters speaking in their native alien tongue, and the Translate app is a way for you to actually understand what they're talking about. You can automatically hear audio or scan some of the written text. Wherever you see the Star Wars language of Arabesh, the app will also be able to help you translate. There's a story behind these supposed junk dealers too. They're secretly aiding the Resistance by manufacturing lightsabers for Force-sensitive allies. Another function on the Play Disney Parks app inside Galaxy's Edge is tuning. This means listening in on the broadcasts happening between the Resistance, the First Order, and the various underworld gangs. And of course, who wants to take a job while you're on vacation at Disneyland? If it means joining the fight for either the heroes or the villains, I'm already on a job at Disneyland. If it means joining the fight for either the heroes or the villains, Star Wars fans may consider signing up for duty. You never actually choose a side, light, or dark in Galaxy's Edge. It's not about waving a flag or putting on a uniform. All this will be the first place in a Disney park where adults are permitted to wear a costume. Your unique story is dictated simply by the actions you take and which side you choose to support. It's also possible, of course, to go rogue by siding with one of the local gangs who are playing both sides against each other. It's more my style. The Play Disney Parks app allows visitors to engage with some of the full-scale droids rolling around the village also, which will help them learn about the word on the street and who is looking for help. Visitors can also sign on to take jobs with characters like Hondo Ohnaka, the pirate proprietor of the Millennium Falcon ride, who may ask you to help him by finding and transmitting schematics for a First Order starship. There will be points and rewards for completing tasks, adding heft to your digital Star Wars profile, but the main thing visitors get is more personal involvement with the story of Galaxy's Edge. Quote, that ship schematic becomes something that you have a copy of, says Deshmain. That adventure within the land means that you're collecting more and more information as you loop around. One of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge's centerpieces will be Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, and thanks to reports from D23 and Entertainment Weekly, we now have a better look at the attraction than ever before. Entertainment Weekly's Anthony Bresnikan got a first look at the attraction and provided a detailed description of this new immersive experience, dubbed one of the most advanced and immersive experiences ever undertaken by Walt Disney Imagineering. The wait line begins beneath a mobile cannon turret, which forms an archway to a path leading to an ancient alien ruin carved into the rocky cliffs of the planet Batuu. The ground is hardened mud, actually concrete in Disney. Yeah. It's mud in story, concrete in actuality, where you can see the footprints of the Resistance soldiers and the tracks of an R2 astromech droid. Actually, it's the R2 astromech, R2-D2, for real. Quote, we got access to one of the original Kenny Baker A New Hope 1976-77 era droids, and we took rubbings of the bottom of the droid feet, said Paul Bailey, a show systems engineer with Imagineering. He then digitized those treads and turned them into 3 wheels on a little trolley. Quote, I'll set the scene for you, says Kristen Michaela, art director for Imagineering. There's a busy construction site. There are lots of people around pouring hardscape concrete. All of a sudden, one of them jumps on this little trolley and someone else pulls him through the concrete. And like that, R2-D2 has left his mark in the ground. Even though no Star Wars fan has ever studied the bottom of the droid's rollers, it shows the extreme effort at fidelity that the art directors pursued. The R2 tracks continue down the curving tree-lined path until you arrive at the caves, which are man-made or alien-made, depending on what we think lived on Batuu centuries ago. The Resistance likes to set up in the ruins of ancient civilizations like on Yavin 4, says Imagineering creative director John Lorena, referring to the temple base targeted by the Death Star in 1977's Star Wars. The story of Galaxy's Edge is that the Resistance and the First Order are both visiting Black Spire Outpost in search of something. Again, maybe Episode 9 will tell us what that is. The idea is the Resistance set up only a week ago, and if they need to run, they can abandon this place fast. Inside the Pueblo-like carved living spaces of the ancient Batuans, the line of would-be Resistance volunteers passes an animated gonk droid, which is basically a walking battery, powering the lights and communications gear. There's a lot of Resistance tech in here, Lorena says, waving at the cables and communication screens hung haphazardly on the cave walls. Throughout the line, guests will pick up on transmissions that hint of the encroaching First Order Legion. But there are other things to explore too. The line winds through a cave with a dry aqueduct and shallow dips in the flat shelves of rock. These were depressions used to clean and wash things, Lorena says, flashing a smile, but now it's good for sitting. A little further along, the line weaves through an ancient worship site, through the little alcoves in the wall lined with mineral weeping stones, and are missing the sacred objects they once held. The Play Disney Parks app on visitors' phones will share information with them as they go through the line, though sometimes it only raises questions without answers. Nearby is another mysterious room with numerous archways and the stone sealed shut with smaller, smooth rocks. Is this where people would sleep, or is this where they are interred, Lorena says. The good guys aren't very careful with ancient archaeology sites. They've used laser torches to carve open the ruins to create wider spaces for their blaster arsenal and flight equipment. Indiana Jones would not approve, but in the heat of battle, you do what you gotta do. The Play Disney Parks app can be used to read the names of some of the X-Wing suits printed in the Star Wars language of Arabesh. As you enter the heart of the Resistance Command, a familiar droid appears, BB-8. He comes bearing a hologram of Ridley as Rey, telling visitors that they have to board a transport soon for a mission led by Poe Dameron. From there, a bay door opens and guests are hustled out past Dameron's signature black X-Wing and into a cargo bay of a transport flown by another well-known Star Wars figure, Neon Nub, the Celestian alien co-pilot who helped Lando Calrissian blow up the second Death Star in Return of the Jedi. An animatronic version of the character barks at his passengers from the front, his jowls flapping like a stack of pancakes. For the voice, Imagineers hired Kenyan actor Kipsang Rotich, who spoke the dialogue for the character in his native languages in both Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Like R2-D2's tracks, no detail was too small for authenticity. Once the transport doors close, visitors watch on monitors as they are cleared for takeoff. Before the ship rises, Isaac emerges from the control center and climbs into his X-Wing, continuing to communicate with Num and your ship as you all lift off into space. Before long, the convoy is intercepted by a First Order Star Destroyer, and Poe can't fight it off on his own, so he has to retreat, promising to bring back help. A tractor beam pulls the transport into the destroyer, and when the doors open, guests are standing in a giant auditorium-sized First Order hangar filled with scores of stormtroopers and hung with TIE fighters along the walls. The stormtroopers will be audio-animatronic with slight movement and suggesting they are alive, but they'll also be slightly smaller than visitors realize to create the illusion that the hangar, which is truly massive, is even bigger than it already is. The TIE fighter on one of the distant walls is significantly smaller than the humans working on it as well. Quote, "Move along, Resistance scum." That's not normally the way Disney ride operators talk to guests, but in this case, the First Order guides have the license to be rotten with you. They are the bad guys. From there, the visitors are hustled into a room similar to the one where Kylo Ren once tortured Poe Dameron. You don't stay here long. Soon you'll learn something valuable that the Resistance will need to fight the First Order, and once you get broken out of this cell, the real ride begins. Disney Parks officials won't say exactly how long Rise of the Resistance lasts, but they will say it's not 28 minutes long, as was said in an online rumor. That one's not from me, folks. So, told you it wasn't going to be 28 minutes. Once you flee the interrogation room, you board a trackless cart that will guide you through the rest of the ride, gliding through one hangar that contains two towering AT-ATs, and eventually bringing you face to mask with Kylo Ren. And exactly how he and Finn appear in the ride is still under wraps. Disney won't say, but Imagineers confirm that both Driver and Boyega are involved in bringing the characters to life. Here's hoping for audio animatronics, right? It's unclear, to Entertainment Weekly, it was unclear how the ride will conclude, but you may remember that we told you a couple days ago that it ends with a big drop, which we assume is an escape pod blasting you out of the ship and back down to Batuu's surface. So, we do know how it actually ends. We'll spoil that for you. Moving on to the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. The Millennium Falcon, of course, doesn't reveal itself right away. It waits to be found. You approach from the same perspective that Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi had when they laid eyes on Han Solo and Chewbacca's ride for the first time in Star Wars: A New Hope. You'll be more impressed than they were, but this is still not the Falcon in peak physical condition. It's pocked with laser blaster burns. Its thrusters are gasping to activate. It's a little worse for wear, says Asa Kalama, the Imagineering creative director who's guiding the tour that they took. You're going to hear the engines trying to turn over as they try to reactivate some of the systems. Occasionally, visitors will see familiar walking carpet on the rooftop or crouching beneath the undercarriage to supervise the restoration. That would be Chewbacca, folks. That battle damage, it buffs right out, says Scott Trowbridge about the Millennium Falcon. At this point in the Falcon's history, Han Solo is no longer with us, but Porgs are. Oh boy. Chewie has partnered with the Weequay space pirate Hondo Ohnaka, a charming scoundrel from the Clone Wars and Rebels animated shows, to fund refurbishment of the Falcon while using it to run contraband throughout the galaxy. The ship is parked facing outward with its engines flanking a curved loading dock embedded in the mountainside that frames Black Spire Outpost, the Casablanca-like crossroads where this real-world chapter of the Star Wars story is set. Inside that mountain is a shipping operation where visitors will wait in line for their chance to climb into the cockpit. As with everything in Galaxy's Edge, this becomes part of the story. You're not tourists waiting in line for an amusement park ride. You and your fellow guests are signing up to be freelance smugglers for the Ohnaka Transport Solutions, the OTS. And like the Indiana Jones ride that opened in 1995 at Disneyland, the Millennium Falcon line will zigzag through passageways and storage rooms that serve as a prologue to takeoff. The line starts at ground level, curves around the back of the Falcon so visitors can get a closer look from that perspective, and from there you climb a set of stairs that lead to the catwalk circling the mechanic shop where other ships and engines are under repair. Along the exterior wall, there are some narrow triangular windows with a close-up view of the radar dish atop the Falcon, and visitors are likely to cluster around these, squeezing in for a glimpse and a photo. But around the next corner, the line bends along a bank of picture windows with a long, unobstructed view of the top of the Falcon and the town of Black Spire. As you head back into the depths of the shipping center, the Disney Play app on the smartphone allows visitors to scan shipping crates, revealing the true contents of what Hondo Ohnaka is trying to send around the galaxy. You may not be happy with what you find. Soon you'll enter the control room. Standing on the bridge, waiting to greet you with his sales pitch is Hondo Ohnaka, which you're now looking at in an impressive audio animatronics form, reportedly the second most complex figure Disney has ever built, second only to the Shaman of Song on the Navi River journey. Hondo is a shipping and logistics coordinator, a completely above-board businessman, Trowbridge joked. He's got cargo to move, he's got ships to fly, but don't ask about the cargo and don't ask where he got his ships. The alien with the spiky beard and turtle shell skin has a jolly disposition despite a lifetime of desperation. The figure looming over you, again, is a state-of-the-art animatronic, and it'll be voiced by Winnie the Pooh voice actor Jim Cummings, who also performed the character on Star Wars animated television shows. Quote, what Hondo would like to present is a very above-board operation, but we come to learn it's more nefarious than we believed. No kidding. Slight spoiler, using the Disney Parks Play app, by scanning those shipping crates, you'll reveal that he's running blasters to help the Resistance, so maybe he's not all that bad. The Resistance gets some supplies they need and make Hondo a very, very rich Weequay. We'll, of course, share the profits with Hondo if we're successful on our mission. We'll split it 90-10, carry the 1 minus the 10%. It'll all work out in the end somehow. Okay, so he's a little bad. At least as a boss, but he has his charms too. The opportunity to bring a character from from animation into real life was something that we've never done before, says Carrie Beck, the Lucasfilm Story Group's VP of Animation and Live Action Shows. But he's not reliving a moment that you've seen in animation. This is actually a new moment in his journey that you'll get to experience just in the park. While the Hondo animatronic assesses the room full of would-be smugglers, his assistant, the grubby astromech droid R528, summons the Falcon. In the windows behind Hondo, which are actually a video screen, you'll see the Falcon rise up from its place in the courtyard and lower down into the interior docking back. The Falcon outside, of course, never moves. This is all just to explain what's going on. The final moments of waiting may be just as exciting as the ride itself. After consulting with Hondo, guests will be led down a jet bridge into a familiar location, the Falcon's chess room, where C-3PO once advised, let the Wookiee win. The chess room is one of several areas Disney guests will discover inside Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run before taking control in one of 3 unique and critical roles aboard the fastest ship in the galaxy. At this point, guests have already been assigned a flight group and a number. Hondo and Chewie need 2 pilots, 2 gunners, and 2 flight engineers for each run. An operator will call out the number of each group when it's time for takeoff, and in the meantime, you're free to roam about the cabin. Kalama says this was done because Imagineers knew fans would want some time to explore this part of the ship and take pictures without restriction. Obviously, it's all a recreation, but after the immersive experience of Galaxy's Edge as a whole and the role play that comes from waiting in line, it's easy to get carried away by the emotion and the attention to detail. Many fans will be wandering this space like Luke in The Last Jedi, remembering all that once unfolded here. Now you get to be a part of the Falcon's history too. The Smuggler's Run ride has a choose-your-own-adventure quality that allows your actions to determine the outcome of the mission. They really are in control of the ship. It's a completely interactive experience, Trowbridge says. And if gunners don't fire and hit that TIE fighter, maybe you'll get some shocks and take some damage on the ship that you've then got to fix. That's the job of flight engineers seated in the back who will have to push buttons to extinguish fires or redirect power. And if pilots don't fly right to avoid that oncoming mountain, your ship is going to smash into that wall. You're truly in control of what happens on your mission. Will there be any hint of L337, Lando Calrissian's droid co-pilot whose consciousness joined with the Falcon when she was mortally wounded in Solo: A Star Wars Story? Quote, there are things to discover in the cockpit, Kalama answered cryptically. The actual mission was not operational for media that took the spin, but they did see concept art of the Falcon flying through a cavernous cistern with a giant tentacled beast lashing out from within the tubes, keeping the interior lake filled. Other than that, the details of any mission are yet to be revealed. When the flight is over, you return to Batuu, you land in the same town square, and then descend into the basement of the shipping center for an exit on the outside. There you'll see the Falcon parked right where you left it. Your reputation as a smuggler will travel with you, and on the Disney Parks Play app, your phone tracks your experience and transmits that information throughout Galaxy's Edge. Go into Oga's Cantina for a post-flight Bespin Fizz, and the bartender might say something like, "Aren't you part of the crew that wrecked the Falcon? Hondo's pretty unhappy with you." Not happy with your story? Don't worry, you can always change it. Of course, food and drink will be an important part of your experience on Batuu, and if you're like C-3PO who thinks space travel sounds rather perilous, or if you simply want to unwind after a daring day of wandering through Black Spire Outpost, look no further than Oga's Cantina, where even the blaster bolt scorches on the walls tell a story. Run by an intriguing alien proprietor, Oga Gara, this watering hole invites guests to share their tales from around the galaxy as they enjoy exotic beverages served in unique vessels. Potations with alcohol include Bespin Fizz, Bloody Rancor, Dagobah Slug Slinger, Fuzzy Tauntaun, Jedi Mind Trick, Jet Juice, The Outer Rim, Spirin, I don't know if I can read half of these, Spirin Calf, T-16 Skyhopper, and Yub-Nub. Non-alcoholic libations will include a Black Spire Brew, you definitely want to put brew in the non-alcoholic name, Blue Bantha, Carbon Freeze, Cliff Dweller, Hyperdrive Punch It, Jabba Juice, Mugen Tea, and Terran Tea. And provisions include a cantina mix. Keep your spaceships parked, as all beverages in Oga's Cantina will be the same on both coasts. You'll find Oga lurking in the shadows, and locals know better than to dare cross the proprietor. Meanwhile, DJ R3X, formerly known as Captain Rex from the Starspeeder 3000 on Star Tours, now calls Oga's Cantina his home, where he's in charge of providing the musical entertainment. I can't wait. Feeling hungrier than a Leviathan? Well, head on over to Docking Bay 7, 7, Food and Cargo, a multi-purpose transport shuttle docked atop a large hangar for traveling food shuttles. This is where Chef Strono Cookie Tugs has converted his modified Siener Chal Ultipede transport into a popular mobile kitchen and restaurant. His travels across the galaxy allow him to fill his pantry with exotic ingredients, and he's proud to present Tug's Grub, a traveling diner for diners traveling. Man. Inspired by dishes he's created during his time working for Maz Kanata on Takodana. Non-alcoholic beverages here include the Fatro and Moof Juice, with entrees including the Braised Shock Roast, featuring beef pot roast with cavatelli pasta, kale, and mushrooms, the Fried Andorian Tip Yip, a decadent chicken dish with roasted vegetable mash and herb gravy, the Felucian Garden Spread, a plant-based kefta meatball dish with herb hummus and tomato cucumber relish with pita bread. There's the Ithorian Garden Loaf, a plant-based meatloaf dish served with roasted vegetable mash, seasoned vegetables, and mushroom sauce. The smoked Kadu Ribs, featuring smoked country sticky pork ribs with blueberry corn muffin and cabbage slaw. The oven-roasted Burra Fish, featuring Dijon-crusted sustainable fish with mixed green roasted vegetables, quinoa, and pumpkin seeds with a creamy green curry ranch dressing. The oven roasted tip yip featuring roasted chicken with mixed greens, roasted vegetables, quinoa, and pumpkin seeds with a creamy green curry ranch dressing. And the Yob shrimp noodle salad, a marinated noodle salad with chilled shrimp. Dessert options will include a raspberry cream puff with passion fruit mousse and a chocolate cake with white chocolate mousse and coffee custard. Neither of those have names. Docking Bay 7 Food and Cargo has 2 children's menu options, a fried chicken with macaroni and cheese and chilled shrimp with vegetable rice noodle salad with a sweet orange dressing. Because kids are not going to want to read a fake menu name. Got to make sure the kids know what they're getting. Meanwhile, Ronto Roaster's large pod racing engine will be firing up a barbecue pit for mouth-watering sandwiches. When customers line up to order, they'll encounter a former smelter droid carefully turning the spit of meats and complaining about his job. Items include the Maylurin juice, the turkey jerky, and the Ronto wrap filled with spiced grilled sausage and roasted pork. Guests will also be able to choose from a variety of exotic non-alcoholic drinks like the Sour Sarlacc or the Tatooine Sunset. Elsewhere in the bustling market, the Milk Stand, what a name, will offer 2 local favorites, Blue Milk, first seen in Star Wars A New Hope, and Green Milk, introduced in Star Wars The Last Jedi. 4 years ago, the team visited Lucasfilm to get ideas for the ingredients, according to Michael Grindow, Food and Beverage Director, Disneyland Resort, Brian Kozoil, Food and Beverage Concept Development Director, Walt Disney World Resort, and Brian Pizecki, Culinary Director, Concept Development, Walt Disney World Resort. Lucasfilm response, you get to write that story. After brainstorming what a bantha might consume in order to produce blue milk, for example, they landed on a plant-based dairy drink, allowing more guests to enjoy it. Other vendors in the area will highlight local delicacies like the colorful Outpost Mix, a popcorn snack combining savory, spicy, and sweet flavors, and that'll be available to try at Kat Saka's Kettle. And now for our last stop and my favorite part, shopping. I broke my microphone. Shopping. The Droid Depot is located in the market, inviting patrons to pick parts and pieces off a conveyor belt and then build and customize their astromech droids, R Series or BB Series. The droids are capable of interacting with elements in the land, responding to guest behaviors. So think of it as like Pal Mickey, but good. Additional programming chips and accessories can be added to the droids to further customize their abilities. The Droid Depot will also offer guests pre-built droids, including a C-3PO, who has quite a bit to say, especially if you accidentally take off his head and put it on backwards, and a Rex, who will happily play whatever music you have on your smartphone through an intergalactic Bluetooth connection. I'm beyond excited for that. The shop also offers droid-inspired products and much more, and intergalactic tourists needn't fret, as all merchandise will be labeled in dollars. So you don't have to worry about any Batuuan conversion or anything. Savi's workshop, guests are given the opportunity to draw upon the Force as they build their own elegant lightsaber. At the heart of every saber is a kyber crystal, and during a guided tour, each guest will have 4 options to choose from. A peace justice modeled after Jedi from the Republic era, power control, a nod to the Sith, elemental nature, harnessing air, earth, fire, and water, and defense, shrouded in mystery. Will you embrace the light side of the Force like Luke Skywalker or the dark side of the Force? That is for you to decide at the 14 lightsaber stations that clearly won't be enough for the amount of people coming into this land. Inside Doc Ondar's Den of Antiquities, visitors will find a selection of mysterious and rare items for sale representing different eras of the Star Wars galaxy, including ancient Jedi and Sith artifacts, holocrons, lightsabers, and more. As they explore the shop's nooks and crannies, they will find Doc at his desk, checking his inventory, taking calls, and barking orders at his assistants. Guests who venture to the creature stall will find some fascinating and unusual beasts from all across the galaxy, ranging from the friendly, which are porgs and tauntauns, to the not-so-friendly rathars and wampas. Nearby, you'll find the Toydarian Toymaker stall, offering items crafted by its namesake alien, a type first seen buzzing around Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. It peddles artisan-style plush characters, wood and tin toys, and instruments. Resistance Supply is a makeshift resource location at the Resistance Hidden Command Post, selling badges, hats, pins, and other accessories to help guests feel like part of the cause. On the flip side, the First Order Cargo is a temporary storage dock located near the market. Easily identified by a never-before-seen First Order TIE Echelon fighter, it gives the interstellar tourist a chance to pledge their loyalty to the First Order by purchasing caps, gear, model ships, pins, and more. Quote, "This is the first place they touched down," said Brad Schonenberg, Director of Merchandise Strategy and New Park Experience Development for Walt Disney World. He says of the first order cargo vendors. They are trying to win the hearts and minds of local with propaganda and merch. Well, that's the way to win me over. One thing you won't find, evergreen Star Wars products. Everything was created specifically for Galaxy's Edge, or as Brad puts it, we're giving today's consumers an experience only we can deliver. Items reflect the stories of yore as they've been told throughout the Black Spire Outpost. With a vast array of innovative goods, he adds, there are many levels of discovery. Boy, that is a lot to unpack. And we will actually be unpacking it tonight on WDW News Tonight in the second hour. We're going to have an hour-long discussion. We're going to see what we think of all this. I'll probably divulge some other things I've heard through the grapevine and more. So make sure you tune in to this week's WDW News Tonight. And of course, for more information, if you want to read these stories, you can head on over to WDWNT.com. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to like this video, subscribe to WDW News Today on YouTube for more great content, and click the bell for notifications. A reminder, we have decided because of this giant episode today, we will not have a Friday show tomorrow. I think this is more than enough to tide you over. We will be coming at you with a show on Monday, which will be coming to you from Disney's Paradise Pier Resort at the Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But this will hopefully, I would imagine this is enough to tide you over for a couple of days. For the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is Tom Corliss saying enjoy the rest of your today, and may the Force be with you always.